Hello and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. Well, Super Showdown is in the rearview mirror, and now we are less than a week away from Elimination Chamber. And you know, between that show coming up and the one I just covered for Evolution, not to mention all my other goings-on, I'm tired, man. The show opens up with some Brocky Brock time. Paul Heyman on the mic saying that the WrestleMania main event of Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre is a sham, and he says Drew may have eliminated Lesnar in the Rumble match, but an elimination is not the same thing as beating someone in the ring one-on-one. He calls Drew a big stupid bitch, which then prompts Drew to actually show up in the arena. He gets in the ring, Lesnar charges him, but Drew hits him with a Claymore, kips up, and leaves. And that was pretty much that. Lesnar's not loopy as a big "you deserve it" chant breaks out from the crowd in Brooklyn, and as they make their way back to the stage, Drew hits him with a Claymore again from out of nowhere, and then a third one. 3 Claymores, and Lesnar is just laid out, and Drew yells at Lesnar, daring him to doubt him at WrestleMania. This is a short and sweet opening segment, but it accomplishes a lot. All 3 guys did very well here. All Lesnar did was sell, but I mean, he really put Drew over in a big way by doing such a good sell job, and also being like flustered and just mad when the crowd was chanting at him, chanting "you deserve it," hey, hey, goodbye, and all that stuff. Drew looks like $1 million, and by the way, it does pretty much telegraph that this will be the main event. Not Goldberg Reigns, I should say, but Lesnar McIntyre, which is, I think, is the right pick. The first match tonight is billed as a now or never match. Raw tag titles on the line as Seth Rollins and Murphy defend against the Street Profits. The Profits have had like 4 title matches in the last month or so, and they're saying this is the last chance they'll get at winning the championships if they lose this one. Montez laid out before the commercial break, but he does come back after the break and everything. Some great times to shine here. At the end, AOP make their way down to the ring and stalk Montez, but then the referee goes to eject them. As the Messiah Maniacs are all arguing, Kevin Owens runs in, hits Rollins with a stunner and leaves, and the rest of the baddies chase Owens out of the arena, and then Montez with a big old frog splash to Rollins to win the match, and they're the new Raw Tag Team Champions. I think this was a great moment for the Street Profits, considering where they started on Raw and just how confusing it was. That they had these guys who were super talented, and they just spent so long as like the Greek chorus, the hype guys for Raw that night, and saying, here's what you can expect tonight on Raw. Like, it was such a weird debut for them. And then they slowly but surely make their way into the in-ring stuff, and they get super over, and in this case they beat one of the top guys in the company to win the tag team championships. Really cool moment, really cool match. And then after the break we see Rollins basically demanding a rematch for the titles at Elimination Chamber. He also says he threatens to crucify Kevin Owens. Yikes. 24/7 championship on the lineup next as Riddick Moss defends against Ricochet. Okay, 2 things. 1, I don't care if it's a 24/7 title. How in the hell are you going to have a championship matchup and not even have an entrance for the champion? Second of all, how does Ricochet go from being in Super Showdown wrestling for the WWE Championship against Brock Lesnar to wrestling for the 24/7 Championship? That's a bit of a drop-off there. Riddick shows the most offense that we've seen from him in the main roster. There is a big "Who are you?" chant, though, as he's wrestling. And then, minutes later, Moss beats Ricochet clean as a whistle with like a modified neckbreaker. And that's it. And like, wow, okay, great for Riddick. That's a great boon for him. Obviously, it's a nice endorsement. It's the biggest win of his career probably since being signed to the company, but man, who did Ricochet piss off? Last week, the OC beat up Aleister Black backstage, and now Aleister is looking for revenge. Before the match begins, though, after AJ's entrance, they show a recap from Super Showdown when The Undertaker was a surprise entrant in that mid-card trophy gauntlet match, beat AJ Styles to win a piece of the aggro crag, and that was pretty much that. So now it seems the rumored WrestleMania match between these 2 guys is for sure happening. AJ cuts a promo about it. They play a clip of Mark Wahlberg talking about the match as well when he's plugging a movie, going, oh, don't you just walk away, AJ. Don't encounter The Undertaker. Like, wait, is Mark Wahlberg going to be involved in this angle too now at Mania? Is Marky Mark going to show up at Mania and be a part of this matchup? So Aleister Black then shows up. The match is about to begin, but then AJ's like, psych, you got to beat Carl Anderson before you face me. So then he beats Carl Anderson, and then AJ's like, psych, you got to fight Luke Gallows before you beat me. Like, didn't we get something almost exactly like this when Ricochet was feuding with AJ Styles not too long ago? Maybe not the exact same thinking of something very similar where, hey, I'm going to fight Gallows and Anderson back to back and beat them both in my lead up to the match with AJ. So anyway, Aleister then he wins by DQ against Gallows because he doesn't get out of the corner in time. So then AJ's prime and ready. Aleister has some moments to shine here, but AJ's too strong. Beats Aleister with the phenomenal forearm and then does the Undertaker arms pin for super extra heat. And by the way, when AJ's getting ready for his part of the match with Aleister Black and Aleister's like getting up and crawling back up to his feet after getting beat up, who are the fans chanting for? Not for Aleister Black, but the Undertaker. So yeah, clearly Aleister is not a very important part of this story. Backstage, Ruby Riott's being interviewed. She says that nowadays she's only responsible for herself. She'll do what she damn well pleases, and there are no friends in the Elimination Chamber. On we go to the match as Ruby Riott takes on Liv Morgan, and the third member of the former Riott squad, Sarah Logan, is the special guest referee. During the matchup, Ruby's kind of like walking all over Sarah and like kind of browbeating her as the match is going on. And then Byron Saxton says something on commentary that really jumped out at me, where he says, maybe Ruby is just jealous that Liv's coming out of her shell and figuring out who she is. Well, who the fuck is she? Months after the Lana Lashley wedding, we still don't know who the fuck she's supposed to be at this point. Anyway, in the match, Ruby's got Liv pinned. In the kick out, she kind of accidentally bumps into Sarah Logan, and she takes great offense to that. Ruby gets in Sarah's face about it. There's a roll up, and then Sarah with a fast count. So Liv wins the match, and then Ruby gets back in Sarah's face more about it. Liv takes out Sarah, or Ruby, I should say, and then Sarah takes out Liv. And so Sarah stands tall out of the three of them. It's certainly an interesting way to build up their part of the Elimination Chamber match, but they've given me so little reason to care about any of these ladies, because when they were together as part of the Riott squad, they were never, ever, ever perceived as a threat, and then they were all off TV for 100 years, and now they're all back, and we still don't know about any of their real motives as to why they're back or what they want to accomplish or anything like that. I just don't care about these women. Backstage, No Way Jose and the Rosebuds encounter Erick Rowan, and then Jose asks, hey man, can we just see what's in the cage? And Rowan, he's thankful that Jose was so respectful about that question, so he will finally show what was in the cage. It's a big-ass tarantula puppet. And there it is. That's the blow-off. That's the payoff to the months of intrigue going, what's in the cage? Oh, what's that mysterious critter in there? It's an animatronic or a puppet fucking tarantula. Whoop-dee-doo. Does that tarantula have a manager's license? What does it have? What business does it have being out there at ringside? I don't think it has a manager's license. Seriously, why did we wait so long? And that was the payoff. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what you could have had in there that would have been better. I know a lot of people were kind of theorizing maybe it's Mercy the Buzzard, maybe it's one of the Firefly Funhouse things, which I thought would have been dumb, but I don't think it would have been, I don't think it's a much better or worse, can't be much worse than the tarantula. So we were supposed to get Asuka versus Shayna Baszler this week, but apparently Asuka injured her wrist, so Kairi Sane is in her place here. This is Baszler's first actual match on Raw since coming up, and the match, it was kind of okay. It starts out with like Shayna kind of toying with Kairi, and then it turns into torture. Kairi does get some moments to shine, but it's pretty much all Baszler. A few minutes into the matchup, though, Becky Lynch shows up wearing this ridiculous ensemble. She's wearing this big, loud yellow fur coat, and then these gaudy sunglasses, and then she joins commentary, and she's wearing the King's crown. So like she is just all over the place, that outfit. And she sounds especially cocky on commentary, more so than usual as the match is going on, really just talking trash about everyone. And then Shayna wins by submission of that matchup. Becky continues to talk trash. This whole thing was just kind of weird. I mean, this match, it was a lot of just like slow plotting action as Shayna was just showing her dominance against Kairi. I don't know if we would have gotten, I would have hoped we would have gotten a different, more competitive match with Asuka. Sadly, that was not the case. And, you know, the Kabuki Warriors painted in a rare babyface position for a change, I think, with this one. And then Becky Lynch is being like really weird, like really leaning into what seems to be more of like getting overconfident, getting full of herself, resting on her laurels, and it's going to cost her at some point in the future. But the outfit was like, what is going on here? This whole thing just felt kind of weird to me. I don't know I can't put my finger on it. In the gorilla position, Rey Mysterio is back on TV with Humberto Carrillo, and Rey's wearing a sweet Eddie Guerrero t-shirt, and he says that this feud with Andrade and Angel Garza will end when they say it's over. Humberto quietly quietly says some words in Spanish. And then we go to our final match of the evening as Rey and Humberto take on Angel and Andrade, the returning Andrade. We've not seen him since his suspension several weeks ago. Before the match, Garza gets a kiss from a stunt granny in the front row, and then the match goes on. It's a really fun match, by the way. All four guys just bring it here. Some great high-flying, great lucha things happening as this match goes on. Rey hits a double 619 on his opponents, and then Humberto with a very beautiful moonsault onto Andrade to win the match for his team. It's probably one of the bigger wins Humberto's had on the main roster. It's been a pretty one-sided affair in his feud with Andrade and also by extension Angel Garza. So for him to have this win here, I think is big for him. And you know, Rey said in that promo, this feud will end when we say it's over. Is it over now? I mean, this thing's gone a very long time, and then it was kind of artificially inflated and extended when Angel replaced Andrade during the suspension. So maybe they can all move on from this. I would like to see more of Garza and Andrade working together. I think this being the first time of them teaming up since Andrade's suspension is over, I'd like to see more of them teaming up. Finally, Beth Phoenix is supposed to be giving a medical update on her husband, Edge. She doesn't get very far in her speech, though, when Randy Orton interrupts. Orton wants to go in for like a hug or a handshake, and Beth is having none of it, calls him a son of a bitch, and Orton tries to give an explanation for his actions. But first, a little story. Back in 1999, when a young 19-year-old Randy was brought to the arena in St. Louis by his dad, Bob Orton, and he met a bunch of the wrestlers. He met Edge, and that was probably one of his most memorable experiences about that night. And so then fast forward to when Randy's a wrestler, when he and Edge are feuding for the IC title, and then a few years later when they're in Rated RKO together. And then it talks about how many years ago, Edge pulled me out of a hole I dug for myself, and so then I was able to have a life, have a wife, have kids and everything. And basically he's saying the reason he did what he did to Edge was to save him from going back into the ring so he could be a good husband and father, like Edge helped Orton do. So this is Orton's way of paying it back by brutally assaulting him and almost breaking his neck. And so that was his whole motivation. And then he says, you know, I love Edge and your daughters more than you do, Beth. like what? So then Beth finally slaps Orton. Orton, you can see him read his lips calling her a bitch. She kicks him in the gut, but then he hits her right back with an RKO, and then he leaves. And that was the whole thing. The officials and wrestlers are coming to help her up as we fade to black. I will say, I thought this segment was very well done. Orton's motives finally revealed, and as twisted as they are, it almost makes enough sense that you would kind of agree with and sympathize with him. His whole thing is, I love Edge so much, I don't want to see him, you know, walk away from his family, which is why I have to put him in his place and send him back into retirement. It's so twisted and messed up that it makes a level of sense, but at the same time, it's like, this is the only way he knows how to take care of the people he loves, is by brutally assaulting them. You know, I think that's just like, it's an interesting character trait of Orton's. Like, he doesn't know how to help people other than hurting them. So yeah, I think we see him cross the line, beating up Beth Phoenix the RKO, and she took that like a champ, by the way. I think that was a really strong way to just pile on more of that heat, so when Edge finally shows up, oh my God, the roof is going to blow off, and it's going to make that inevitable encounter for WrestleMania that much more interesting.
Levi Shapiro here, the longest reigning Wrestling with Regret champion. I'll be strolling into Tampa, Florida in April just to prove one thing, that I'm truly timeless.
My final grade for this week's Raw is a B-. Now, hear me out on this one. The first hour of the show, tremendous work. And then the last match and the final segment with Orton and Beth Phoenix, great stuff. Then there's this whole big chunk in the middle that's full of a bunch of head scratchers. Like, why did Riddick Moss get a clean win over the guy who just fought Lesnar for the championship? Why should we care? The Riott Squad are fighting. What was the point of that reveal for Rowan's pet? And furthermore, what was the point of giving Rowan a pet if that was going to be the reveal at all? Or did they even know that was going to be the reveal when they first debuted that whole concept? All that stuff nearly brought the show to an ass-grinding halt, but I would say the sum of the parts from the first hour and the last hour kind of helped keep the show afloat, and I think that on the whole, it was a pretty strong episode of Raw, some of that confusing stuff in the middle notwithstanding. But let me know what you thought about the show this week in the comments section below, and be sure to give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.